Tonight at 6 o'clock, the Delphi murders trial is coming to a close. The defense resting their case today after trying to raise reasonable doubt that the suspect, Richard Allen, killed the teens, Abby Williams and Libby German. And now the jury is preparing for closing arguments starting as soon as tomorrow.
Our senior investigative reporter Bob Siegel was inside court today hearing this final day of testimony. So Bob, start us off with some of the big takeaways today.
Scott and Ann, it took 17 days of testimony for jurors to finally hear Judge Frances Gull say, "Ladies and gentlemen, you've now heard all the evidence in this case." That came at 2:20 this afternoon, and then Judge Gull sent the jury back to its hotel. All of them are, of course, sequestered at a nearby hotel. And that didn't happen before we heard from a few final witnesses earlier today. Not from the defense. They rested their case just after 9 o'clock this morning. That prompted prosecutor Nick McLeland to bring back two witnesses for a few more questions. And then we heard for the first time from the prison psychiatrist who met with Richard Allen. Dr. John Martin told jurors he met weekly with Allen last April and May after Allen was diagnosed as psychotic. He said Allen really struggled in mid-April but started to improve with medication. And Dr. Martin said by early May, Allen showed no signs of psychosis at all. That is important because that's the same time frame Allen confessed to killing Abby and Libby, and the state's trying to counter that testimony that came from a defense expert who earlier told the jury Allen was psychotic and mentally ill at the time he made all of his jailhouse confessions. Samantha Johnson was also in court today. Sam, this was a key witness for the state, but I'm not sure it went as well as they had hoped.
Yeah, especially when we saw the defense play a video inside the courtroom. Most of the courtroom could see it. We could see it from where we were seated too. It was of Richard Allen getting medical treatment inside the prison, and the defense told us that video was taken on the same day that Richard Allen met with this witness, Dr. Martin, June 20th, 2023. In the video, Allen was restrained. He was sitting in a chair in the middle of this room. He looked dazed. He didn't show any emotion. He barely responded to the people around him. So after a couple minutes of watching that video, then Dr. Martin was asked if that video makes him reconsider his thoughts that Allen was not psychotic that day. And I got to tell you, depending on who was asking the question, Dr. Martin kind of gave different responses. There was no straightforward good answer to those questions. In fact, the jury weighed in too. They asked the question, could it be possible that Richard Allen was slipping in and out of psychosis within that 24-hour period, to which Dr. Martin responded, yes. So this final witness, these final moments of testimony in this entire case, not exactly the home run the state was looking for.
Yeah, it's also important to point out Richard Allen did not take the witness stand in his own defense. Jurors will be reminded that he is not required to do that and that they cannot hold that against him. So tomorrow, jurors are going to hear closing arguments, and then they're going to get jury instructions. At that point, they will begin their deliberations. And I took down a couple numbers and notes here. Nearly 400 exhibits they're going to have to review, and testimony from 64 separate witnesses that they heard during this case. And they'll have to sort through all that again in order to determine whether Richard Allen is responsible for the murders of Abby and Libby. We will, of course, continue to be here as we have been throughout this entire trial, right up until the time we get a verdict. Ann and Scott, back to you.
It'll be a big day tomorrow. Bob Siegel and Samantha Johnson, thanks. Legal expert Katie Jackson-Lindsay will be joining us tonight for our Delphi debrief. That streams on WTHR Plus at 10 o'clock. That app is a free download on Apple TV, Fire Stick, and Roku.